Thank you, dear heart, and welcome, everybody. Delight to have you with us. Delight to be back between travel and Challenge with Blog Talk. It seems like we've been missing for a long time, so my apology for that. Had a precious morning this morning. You know, we talk a lot about Arya and her growing awareness, and this morning, or actually last night, her other grandmother had a little bit of a meltdown and some upset. And this morning, as we were sitting around talking, Arya offered the insight that her grandmother had just forgotten for a little while who she was. I just thought that was so precious, in knowing what we're here for, what we're really all about, and be able to function as human beings, to really truly function as the presence of love. And so the bottom line of this work is that we are, as Dr. Tim always closes his show out with, that we are literally, energetically made of the stuff we call love. And that loving each other is not a thing. It is a gross mistake of the culture to pretend that love is something you can do to someone. It's a trick that we're stuck in. And what we're looking to do is to recover. And the recovery program is not about recovering from a disease, recovering from alcohol, recovering from drugs, or whatever. It's about recovering the truth of who we are, truly functioning as human beings. And so, if you've ever heard us ask the question, have you ever held a newborn? And you touch into the essence of the newborn, and we're getting to just spend lots of time. I've gotten several hours in the last few days just holding this new little one and appreciating him for tapping us into that presence of love. You know, we've been covering the Gospel of Thomas, one of the books that was not canonized in the New Testament. And if you recall, one of the tenets in that text was, as put forward by Yeshua, is if you're an adult, go to the infant to ask them about life. And so I've been having that opportunity the last few days to just be with this precious little being who's now been with us for just a little better than 6 weeks. And just sitting with his presence, just sitting with that sweet, awesome, pure presence of being. And we're delighted to have that opportunity to share the tools for achieving that state. Delighted to be here to support you. And if it's your task to engage in learning to function truly as a human being, and recognizing that is our task. You know, pretty much every one of us have had, you know, we live in a culture whose specialty is knocking out of us in one way or the other the awareness of ourselves as the presence of love, and then giving us a false definition for that word. They'll tell us to go out and find somebody to love us, or find somebody to love. So by the age of 5 or 6, the culture has filled our heads with this thing of, you're supposed to love your neighbor. Please, make that the last thing you attempt to do. Because if you attempt to love your neighbor, you'll be buying into a false definition of the word love, which is your essential nature. You know, Vladimir Lenin said it very well. If you want to destroy a culture, change the meaning of its words. And one who goes pursuing this thing of loving your neighbor, now believing in a false pursuit. And how many thousands of times have you heard it said that Yeshua said, love your neighbor? He never said such a thing. What he said in Aramaic was have rachma for your neighbor, and there is no such idea in the English language, in the Latin, or the Greek. The languages that we derive the so-called scriptures from, there's no such idea as rachma. Not a word for the concept. And so the very foundation of the teaching, when they said to him, what's most important in the law? He didn't say love your neighbor, love God. He said have rachma for the Creator, rachma for your neighbor, and by so doing you maintain your human life. What is your human life? Your human life is the conscious active presence of love. And to recognize that and to achieve that is the sum and substance and the purpose of this work, and the whole core of the teaching of this man, Yeshua. And so that's exactly what we're here to accomplish, to achieve, to function from. So rather than trying to do some venial form of approval with my neighbor that the world calls love, people run around saying, I love you, I love you, I love you. But you'll notice that the minute that someone violates a goal you hold for them, someone that you quote unquote supposedly love, you'll notice how quick it is and how easy it is for that venial form of approval. And venial means small, petty, tiny, infinitesimal, meaningless. The minute that someone violates a goal you hold for them, what happens to that form of approval? Why do over 60% of relationships end in divorce? And what do the divorced people say? Well, we loved each other once. No, you didn't. You found someone that matched your bag of garbage. You approved of them. They approved of you until you or they violated a goal that the other one held. And once enough goals were violated, then the hostility or fear attached to those goals was then used to literally build a perceptual construct about that person. And if you were a well-trained, card-carrying member of the one world universal religion of blame, then you told them how it was they that hurt you, made you afraid, made you sad, and projection took over. And all of a sudden, love, or what the world told you was love, turned to hate, or disapproval, or rage, or guilt, or, what happens when two people come together and they swoon, I love you so much. And then the words are pronounced, the honeymoon is over, and they look at that other person and say, what am I doing here with you? I can't even stand how I feel when I'm with you. As though that person were the cause of what one is feeling. No one can cause you to feel anything, but people can certainly trigger the stresses in your mind, the goals, and the violation of those goals will cause one to use unresolved, painful dynamics within themselves to build their brain's image of the other. And now the other becomes the enemy. Don't touch me, don't come near me, I never want to see you again. Do you really think that was a love relationship to begin with? Absolutely not. It was clearly a relationship based in nothing but matching bags of garbage. And the beauty of those relationships based in matching bags of garbage is everything that you've never dealt with, this person is going to show you. If you're a verified card-carrying member of the one world universal religion of blame, when they show you the part of you that you don't like, that you're in denial of, that you've dissociated from, you'll then use that very energy to build your brain's image of them, and they will become abhorrent to you. Why do they become abhorrent to you? Because you have a reality in your mind called abhorrent. You have the mind energy that you classify as abhorrent, and you use that energy as a substitute. You use that energy to build your brain's image of them, and you substitute that for the fact of who they are. And our invitation with this work is to reverse that process, to recognize if there's some sort of hostility or fear moving in you. And when you realize that the human physiological device and mind are designed to function out of a connected space of love, Rahma, in essence, if something other than that moves in you or me, comes, it in fact is a mental illness. So if you've got someone who has learned how to show you everything you've never dealt with, thank them for their showing you what you need to deal with. They're showing you your own mental illness. The tragedy of the game is that this generator of perceptual constructs called mind can take any energy that it holds and turn it into pictures of whoever it is that we're focused on and blaming for what's going on inside of us. So if you come from a long line of people who have unresolved hostility or fear, and I'd offer that's virtually everybody on the planet, then you come from a well-practiced mind that has the ability to turn its pain into the images of other people and swear that the pain must belong to other people. You make me so mad. The thing to replace that lie with is, what you just did brought up my rage. Thank you for showing me my mental illness, my rage. Now I will apply the tool of forgiveness and remove my mental illness, my rage. Nothing whatsoever to do with letting you off the hook. And so in essence, that's what we're here to do, is to put those tools to work and to take them and make them available to literally every mind, heart, and being on planet Earth. So that's our project, and we're delighted that you're here to be part of the conversation. And with the shows that we've not been here for, with the substitute programs that have played, I assume that there perhaps have been some questions developed that we haven't had an opportunity to address. So if you're out there in listener land and you're in one of those stations especially where we can't see you in our control panel, our call-in number is 563-999-3581, 563-999-3581. If you call that number, you'll be listening directly to the show. And if you have a question, push 1 on your phone, and that will raise a hand in the control panel. And through the amazing technology that Blog Talk Radio is kind enough to provide us with, that will raise a hand on Jeannie's screen as she runs a control panel, and she will announce you by your area code, introduce you, and we'll be having a conversation. So if you're out there in listener land, if any of the shows that have recently played where we haven't been available have aroused any questions for you, now would be a time to push 1. Let's have a conversation about it. So, Miss Jeannie, do we have anybody out there in the phone queue with a hand up or anything happening in the chat room?
It's all quiet on this end. We've got listening, though, so we're glad that you came back to see that we were here. We have a new person in the chat room, first-time caller, and they had asked Dr. Tim a question about, let me go back up to the top. I have trouble sometimes turning off negative thoughts and emotions. It seems like guilt will rear its ugly head out of nowhere. Any insight why a person would feel guilty almost constantly and for no reason? That would be awesome. For me, the guilt seems to be followed by crazy high anxiety. And so he answered them somewhat, but this was towards like the last 4 minutes. And they said they were going to stick around and get a look at the worksheet that was mentioned. So I don't know if open hour you have the opportunity to actually dial in and talk to us, but we're here to assist you. So I don't know, Michael, if that gives you enough information to possibly address it a little further.
Sure. Yes, absolutely. Would love to offer support in that case. And one of the things that happens in our culture is we're taught somehow that emotions are a primary thing, and we try to fix our emotions. And trying to fix an emotion is like trying to get a shadow to pick up a stone. You know, the shadow on the ground there looks very real. I mean, it moves, it seems to have substance. So how about if I just have the shadow reach down and pick up a stone? Can I move that stone with a shadow? No. Can I change an emotion by working on my emotions, by trying to get rid of my emotions, by not liking my emotions, by resisting and fighting my emotions? No, because emotions are nothing but a shadow. Guilt is a result of, an expression of, a thought disorder, an energy that doesn't belong within the system. You know, one of the things we talk a lot about in this work is the codependence dynamic of a power person. And a power person is a person in your life who had more power over your life at some point than you did, who was not functioning as love, and in essence, with the power that they had, expressed thoughts that were out of harmony with the truth of who they were and the truth of who you are, not functioning as love. And if you were the object of that situation, it's usually a parent-child relationship, then those circumstances and situations seem like they threaten survival. And when that occurs, the child, and again, it's usually an incident between a child and a parent, the child then becomes a wide open energy field. When you think of this body-mind unit, instead of being physical, you think of it as being energy. When this energy field opens, it then acts much like a sponge and absorbs every energy from the environment. The kind of thought disorders that are fed by a power person is there's some principles behind it. One of the most basic ones, one of the earliest ones that most of us receive, is something along the lines of, you're broken, there's something wrong with you. And of course, hand in hand with that circumstance, the power person living in denial themselves, not aware that what's going on inside of them belongs to them, projects the content of their pained structure into their brain's image of the child and delivers to the child something along the lines of, one, the message, there's something wrong with you, you're broken, and two, it's your fault I'm feeling this way. And those kinds of thought disorders tend to be the kinds of energetic patterns that reflect as guilt. So what you want to be working with in the idea of the reality management forgiveness worksheet is to collapse the projected images based in thought disorders that are rooted in pain and remove the thought disorders, literally changing the mind. And once the thought disorder that reflects as guilt is removed, then it's not even possible to feel guilt. And unfortunately, many people go from a home that tends to enforce thought disorders based in, there's something wrong with you, you're broken, and it's your fault that I'm in pain or upset. They move from that type of a home to a church setting where the church just reinforces the whole game, that you're to blame. Not only is your power person, your parent usually, upset with you, but there's the big parent in the sky who's also upset with you. And therefore you should be really guilty. And the resolution of those thought disorders is the application of forgiveness to collapse the mind's ability to produce images based in guilt. The human mind has an interesting capacity. You think about I'm in a room right now here in North Carolina, and when I mention that, I think about the people far west of us here in western North Carolina that have just been through one of the most horrific tragedies that I could ever imagine. And I certainly extend love in their direction and support in their direction. But if you look at the trauma that many people live in, that trauma is based in energies that are not able to be brought to awareness, except when they are expressed. Let's use an example. So I started to say, here I am in North Carolina, and I'm in a room, and I look around the room, and there is a picture on the wall. We've rented a house here for this vacation. There's a picture on the wall, but otherwise, there are no pictures in this room. I open my eyes, and I can't see a picture, so I am sure there are no pictures in this room, except for this one. But right across from me on the wall, there's a television set. And if I reach over and grab the remote and turn it on, and I start flipping through channels, I'm going to find out that there are thousands of pictures in this room right now. I can't see them unless I get the right decoding mechanism. And, the TV is hooked, probably not literally anymore because we've got cable, but let's go back to a time when it was hooked to a television antenna. Now, could I go inside the wires of that television antenna and find a picture? Not in a million years. But if I hook those wires up to the back of the TV and I turn the TV on, the TV has a converter system that converts the energetic signals in the wires into pictures. So this conversion, this turning energy into pictures, is pretty amazing. So again, I know now intellectually, though I only see one picture on the wall here, there literally are thousands of pictures available in this room right now if I had the right tuning mechanism, converter mechanism that converts those signals into pictures. Well, the human mind is this amazing device, because in the same way that this television set turns energetic signals, literally vibratory frequencies in a piece of wire, into pictures, our brain turns the vibratory frequency of thoughts into pictures. It does exactly the same thing as the television set does. So if I hold a vibratory thought about how I'm broken and therefore to blame and guilty, then whenever that signal is activated in me and I am the object of attention of that signal, my energy system, in the same way the TV set converts the frequency in the wires to this picture, my mind will take those thought disorders and then turn them into pictures of myself, and I will show up in my mind as guilty. The objective of the forgiveness process is nothing to do with the Greek misinterpretation of forgiveness, where if I have a thought disorder that's causing me to project guilt into my brain's image of myself, that I should forgive you for that because you triggered that thought disorder into activity. If I bought the Greek idea, misinterpretation of forgiveness, I'll think that you're the cause of my pain, and then what I'll be counseled to do is to let you off the hook for the pain that's moving in me. And that's the Greek act of pardoning that's been bastardized and turned into forgiveness. So when you really understand forgiveness, you will never, ever attempt to forgive anyone, including yourself, ever again. However, you will work toward forgiving continuously. Well, Michael, what are you talking about? That seems like an oxymoron. Well, not when you have the brain cells for it. Remember that forgiveness is a tool with which you collapse the pictures your mind is making out of the energetic patterns moving in you. And when you collapse those pictures, they collapse in on themselves and give you access to the hidden or the unconscious thought disorders within your own mind, and you get to transmute or remove those energetic patterns from yourself, and now you're talking about actual forgiveness rather than the Greek substitute of pardoning in place of forgiveness. So when I say never forgive anyone ever again, what I'm saying is never say, I'm going to let you off the hook for what's happening inside of me again, as though that person outside of you is the cause of what's moving in you. If you recognize that someone, on occasion has done something that's really off the wall, improper, illegal, immoral, what have you, and that's been the trigger for your self-inflicted nonsense, your self-inflicted pain, then it can be appropriate to pardon them. That is, I'm going to let you, what you did was really off the wall, and so I'm going to let you off the hook, and at the same time, I'm going to recognize that what you did that was so off the wall triggered my mental illness, my thought disorders about how I'm broken and I'm to blame for something happening inside of you. Or pardon me, inside of me. So I may choose to pardon someone. If I call letting someone else off the hook for what's happening inside of me forgiveness, as the Greeks have done, then I'll stop short of doing any forgiveness work at all. When I name that process, letting you off the hook for what's happening inside of me, accurately as what it is, that is pardoning, so I've pardoned you, then the next step is to recognize, and now the fact that I was in pain in response to your behavior, in response to what you did, I recognize that there's a thought disorder in me that my brain is turning into pictures of myself and what's wrong with me, and I'm going to apply forgiveness to that and remove it from my structure. So while forgiving continuously, I never forgive anyone. Pardoning, very appropriate. Forgiving is the act of recognizing what's driving the conversion system in you that makes your thought disorder show up as pained images about yourself. Collapsing those images, you get to the root of what was behind that projection in the first place, and you get to be free of it. So forgiveness is about accessing literally the energetic patterns, the thought disorders that are often generational, that are happening inside of you, and the opportunity to free yourself from those thought disorders. Freeing yourself from mind energy based in hostility, fear, drama, trauma, and pain is called forgiveness. And you'll notice that unless you're just a generally miserable person, you're pretty much happy with everybody around you as long as they are fulfilling all of the goals that you hold for them. And that you only go into some form of hostility or fear when someone violates a goal that you hold for them. And the commitment, so to speak, that you have, the belief that they must fulfill that goal, if it's small, If it's like, well, you do it or you don't, it's not that big a deal, then the level of upset is going to tend to be minor. But if it's like, this is something you better achieve or else, then the level of upset response to that goal is going to be enormous. And that upset is produced from within you, turned into images of them by your denial. Key way into healing that part of your own mind is to recognize that there's a goal that you held for them, if you're doing your forgiveness work on another person, or a goal that you held for yourself, if you're doing forgiveness work on yourself. And in Aramaic, the word forgive is shabag or shabak, and it literally means to cancel. Now, if I'm interacting with someone, is it appropriate for me to cancel them? Probably not. It's called murder. Is it appropriate for me to cancel myself? Well, no, that one's called suicide. Well, in this circumstance, this situation where you seem so deeply to be the cause of my upset, what the heck am I going to cancel? That word forgive, shabag, it literally translates, what am I supposed to cancel? The driver that causes your mind to produce any given reality, any given construct, is the goal you hold for the object of attention of that construct. And when I cancel that goal, construct that comes from my mind collapses. That picture, the conversion of my mind energy into a set of pictures that shows me that you're the problem in my life, collapses when I cancel the goal that I hold for you. And when that collapses, it collapses in on its own footprint. It's not a very nice visual, but it's a powerful one, and it fits perfectly for the first century Aramaic forgiveness process. We all watched the 9/11 towers go down. And when they went down, what did they do? They each collapsed into their own footprint. How is that possible? Well, there's another whole story there, but think about the visual. Here's this huge building just dropping free fall speed right into its own footprint. If you have a perceptual construct, a picture that your mind is presenting to you that's accompanied by pain inside of you or based in pain inside of you, we tend to live in a way that we keep our pain hidden from ourselves. We keep it in the unconscious. And so when I literally identify precisely the goal that I held for you, and I cancel that goal, that perceptual construct that my mind is showing me that I think is you, that I think is outside of me, but if I'm in pain, is really inside of me. When I cancel that goal, that whole construct, collapses in on itself. It gives me access to the hidden, unconscious part of my own mind. And when I bring a hidden, pained part, guilt or otherwise, to conscious awareness in the presence of active love, because love is the master solvent, then the guilt that is a result of the movement of that mind energy, of that thought disorder, is transmuted, and I'm freed of it. And that is the act of forgiveness. That is the core and the result of forgiveness. The explanation made sense if you're new to the work, or if you've been around for a while. Hopefully it might just add another dimension to the understanding of how these thought disorders that we carry around generation after generation after generation, modeled by parents and in particular power persons. I hope that this makes sense and gives you another level of, so if I cancel a goal, I'm not canceling the goal because I can't have what I want. I'm certainly not canceling the goal because I don't want what I want. I'm canceling the goal because I recognize that every time I load this goal in my mind, it causes my mind to use some form of stored hostility or fear to produce
my physiological sensations and to produce this picture, this construct, this perception in my mind. And when I cancel it, the construct collapses and gives me access to the unconscious part of my own mind. There is no other tool on planet Earth that I know of that will consistently, persistently give you access to the hidden dynamics of your own mind. But when you do this on a consistent, persistent basis, what you'll find is you literally unload from your physiology all of the mind energy based in hostility or fear. Fear disappears, hostility disappears. It makes space for the active presence of love to flow into every nook and cranny of my life. And everything is transformed when that happens. So I hope that makes sense of what you might want to do around this guilt and the worksheet process. There's several ways you can access it. You can go to our website, which is whyagain.org. And when you go to that site, when you get to the home page, there's a link in the upper left-hand corner that says Start Here. If you take that link, you click that link, it'll walk you right into some instructions on how to use the website. That's the first link that's there. The second one is how to use the World's Only Forgiveness app, which you can download directly on your phone. If you go to your app store, whatever phone system you have, and type in the words Heartland, 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 Aramaic, Aramaic, forgiveness, you'll see in the apps that come up one that has a red glowing heart. That's our very private app designed specifically that you're the only one that will ever be able to see anything that is inside of the app. And as you put that app to work, you can do the forgiveness process right there on your phone. You can also drill down into the website. You can do the worksheet right there live on the website, and you can print a PDF of your worksheet when you're complete if you want to keep a record of it. You can do the same from the app. You can go to any one of, I'm not sure right now how many different versions of the worksheet. Over the years, we've developed many different versions, and we have made those versions available on the website, so you can print those off and do them handwritten on your own, in your own home on paper. Many people actually over the years have found it to be beneficial. They get a really nice notebook that they enjoy, that lays nicely for them, that they find ease in writing, and they actually write the whole worksheet process out, or at least sometimes a shortened version of the worksheet as they do the forgiveness process and put that process into work in their lives. So that's what we're here to do. That's what we're here to support you in. I hope that makes sense. Ms. Jeannie, has our caller been with us? Have they pushed one? Are there any other questions or anything else happening in the chat room?
Well, they're actually in the chat room, but
awesome.
So there's so much information here. I feel like it's going over my head. I'm going to absolutely go back and re-listen. I gave them the link to today's show, and I said you can go back and listen to both hours because they also talked with Dr. Tim, and so they can pick up the archive of both hours shortly after the show is over. And also gave them the link to the app and also to the Start Here.
And, and then we're to affirm for you, the person who asked the question, yes, it's a huge amount of information. What I just explained to you literally took me about 35 years of working full-time with the first century Aramaic forgiveness process to understand. If you'd have talked to me 15 years ago and asked me that question, I could not have even come close to explaining with the kind of accuracy that I just did exactly how the mind works, exactly how forgiveness worked. Although for decades before that, I had been teaching this process, I did not know how it worked. So be comfortable with you're going to probably listen to that 20 times, or maybe 3 or 4 times in 10 or 15 different forms as you build the brain cells, so that your mind can produce what my mind produces out of those thoughts. After the first worksheet that I developed was about 4.5 decades ago. The first, step by step, here's how you forgive from the Aramaic. And it's something that I taught, in the Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop, which you would probably benefit from going to our YouTube channel and watching the Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop. It's our core workshop. And the latest version that I've done of that workshop is on our YouTube channel. And you can go to that by going to YouTube and just typing in Michael, M-I-C-H-A-E-L, space R-Y-C-E. You'll be looking at our YouTube channel. And then if you just do a search, you'll find Why Is This Happening to Me Again? So there's I think it's 3 hour and 20-minute workshop, and that will fill in a lot of the blanks from what I just shared. And you'll be able to watch that workshop, once, twice, 3, 10, 20 times, and each time build the brain cells and have deeper and deeper comprehension tools. And of course, if you download the app and do the worksheets on the app, in each page in the app, Jeannie's built in a button that you can push, and if you've got a question, I'm on step 3 and this doesn't make any sense. Why would I do this, or what does this mean? You can ask your question, hit send. Jeannie will get that before the next radio show. She'll read it on the show. We'll have that conversation, and then she'll turn around and send you a link so you have an explanation of exactly what your questions are. And, we're delighted. As much time as you have to spend and as many questions as you have about the forgiveness process, please call and either through the chat room ask the question, or again, when you call in, you can push 1 and you'll be listening to the show. And then if when you push 1, Jeannie will introduce you when your turn comes up in queue, and you and I will have a conversation. And we're happy for you to call in absolutely as often as you feel inclined, as often as you need support, and ask all the questions that you want. And I'm really 1,000% sincere in wanting every subtle little, what might seem to be a picky question. I want those questions, because if they're questions I haven't asked yet, you giving us the gift of asking them will allow me to go into another level of understanding of this forgiveness process. And that's basically how this understanding developed in working with thousands of people all over the globe with this forgiveness process, teaching it, engaging in every person's questions, every person's little refined understanding is what opened the space for me to comprehend the next level of this work. So please feel free to call, ask, and you're welcome to call in every day. If you got a worksheet that you'd like assistance with, then you're certainly welcome to let us know and ask, and we'll on the show walk you through the worksheet. If you want to really get the worksheet in depth, there are 20 plus radio shows under the special archives of the radio show where we've walked somebody through the whole process. And each worksheet, each person's issue is different, and the questions each person has, the space each person is in. So if you really want to become proficient at using the worksheet process, listen to all 20 plus, I don't know whether it's up to 25 or 30 perhaps now, different radio shows where either Jeannie or Dr. Tim or myself have walked somebody through the forgiveness process, and each one will give you another little refinement, another little twist in deepening your understanding of this process and how it works. It is, without doubt, the most profound and powerful tool on planet Earth. And I wish I had been the one who created it, understood it, and put it together. Unfortunately, I am not. It was a man named Yeshua 2,000 years ago who created this tool. I just happened to be in the right place at the right time to connect with his Aramaic words and to engage in decades of interaction with them, to understand this process and to put it to work, to put it into a format that made it simple and straightforward for people to use. And we're here to support you 1,000% and really becoming proficient at using that tool. It is, to me, without a doubt, the most important tool that anyone could have in their lives. So delighted you asked the question. And Miss Jeannie, do we have anybody else in the phone queue with a hand up or anything happening in the chat room?
Hold on. I had just flipped over to no, there's no hand up and no other question. The person that had asked the original question when you were explaining that it just took time to build the brain cells, they wrote, "Oh, thank God, I thought I might just be slow."
No.
YouTube channel, and if you go to it, you have a option on the YouTube channels, on anybody's channel, to click playlist. And if you click that, there is one that's titled Special Shows. And it's where we've converted the MP3s into MP4s. And there's actually 95 videos under Special Shows.
Cool. And what are there, probably 25 or more of those that are live worksheet processes? Yeah.
Right.
And each one of those has a different, different refinement in building the brain cells to really understand the process. So, sweet. Well, thanks for the question. So if you're out there in listener land, our call-in number, 563-999-3581. If you call that number, you're listening to the show directly. If you happen to be on one of those stations where we can't see you, then you can't talk directly to us. But if you call the show and then push 1, by pushing 1, that will raise a hand in the control panel. And once again, thank you, Blog Talk Radio, for providing us with this technology. We, of course, are aware that every once in a while it breaks down. A couple days ago, we didn't have any show because Blog Talk was down, and that happens on rare occasions. We've been doing this show now for 14 years, 5 days a week, and but over the years, maybe we've had 15 or 20 times that we weren't able to do a show, that it was broken down. So if you ever come and you go, oh, there's nobody on the other end of this phone, please come back. We are going to keep coming back. But once in a while, Blog Talk has a technical issue, and unfortunately, we just can't play when they have a technical issue. But we're delighted to answer your questions and be here for support.
And we have 10 minutes, so we've got time for a question.
Breathing with you if you're out there in listener land, and you have a thought for us, a question, push 1. And when you push 1, Jeannie will introduce you by area code, and we'll have a conversation and give you every refinement that we have. Well, if nobody has a question, then we've got about 8 or 9 minutes left. So I'm going to jump into a little bit of the work we've been doing from the book of Thomas. And Thomas is a text that purports to be the Gospel of Thomas, written down by Thomas as he listened to the teachings of Yeshua. He does it differently than the canonized Gospels, who tell a story about Yeshua and his interaction with others and his teaching. But in the Gospel of Thomas, Thomas simply writes down specific key thoughts that Yeshua gave. And so we'll jump in. We finished up last time, I believe, with saying 36, where he says, be not anxious from morning to evening, and from evening to morning about what you shall put on. And the recognition there is that, people will say, I'm anxious because this happened. I'm anxious because that happened. Oh, that causes anxiety in me. And that whole language is the language of denial. I remember Our definition of denial in this work is when I think or speak as though something outside of me is the cause of what's moving inside of me. Then I have to dissociate from the true cause of what's moving in me. And once I'm cut off from the true cause of what's moving in me, then I get to play the title of my book. And the main workshop we do, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? If you haven't read the book, I unfortunately, because it's out of print, can't sell you one. However, you can go to YouTube, or pardon me, not YouTube. You can go to Amazon or eBay, and they pretty much always have some fairly inexpensive copies. You know, the book was originally published before the turn of the century. Seems weird to say that. It's being 2024, so that's, you know, it's almost 30 years ago now that book was published. But way back then, and as long as we did have it in print, we put enough copies out. There's still lots of them circulating on eBay and Amazon, so you can usually buy a copy for $4, $5, $6, and or you can go to our website. Again, the website is whyagain.org, whyagain.org/book. Real simple. whyagain.org/book. And when you go to that page, put that in a browser and hit a return, you'll be looking at a page that gives you the option of downloading the book in German or Swedish or Farsi or Greek. No, not Greek. Anyway, whatever languages they're in, there are, I think, 9 different languages now that at least parts of the book are in. And so you can download, of course, English is one of them, and read the book on your phone or your computer or print it off, whatever works. So that reading of the book helps to build the brain cells for just how this process works. And this particular statement from Yeshua is basically saying, people think they have anxiety. You know, in this case, he talks about what you're going to put on, what you're going to wear. Or in the traditional scriptures, he talks about, don't be anxious about what you're going to eat. And in essence, what he's saying, if you live in denial, you think you have anxiety, which is a product of what's going on in your mind because of something outside of you. No, if you have anxiety, the reason you have anxiety is because you have anxiety. Nothing to do with what you tend to hook it to. You know, people can hook their anxiety to, going outside. It can hook their anxiety to being closed into enclosed spaces. It's called claustrophobia. They can blame anybody or anything for it. The objective of the forgiveness process, let's say when it comes to something like anxiety, is to recognize that anxiety is a product of an energy moving in the mind. And what the forgiveness process allows you to do is to tap into the dissociated part of your own mind, the hidden part of your own mind. And when you bring that part of your mind forward in the presence of active love, then the dissolution and the attachment to that errant thought will be forthcoming, part of the process. So that's statement 36. And then in 37, his disciples say, on what day will you be revealed to us? On what day shall we see you? Yeshua said, actually, I think I did cover this one, but we'll go over it again. When you unclothe yourselves and are not ashamed, you know, he's basically saying, get naked. And you know, when you look at that idea in this culture, I mean, if you walked into town and somebody's running around naked, what kind of thoughts come up in you? What have we been brainwashed with? Now, you go back to the scriptures and you hear the Creator saying, who told you you were naked? Who gave you any of this garbage about your body that when somebody's naked, they tend to get lost in? The shame, the embarrassment, all the stuff that goes with nakedness in our culture, all the self-judgment. So in essence, what Yeshua is saying here is, you're going to be able to tap into who I really am when you can tap into who you really are. And you free yourself from these realities that you hold about being naked. So he says, when you unclothe yourselves and are unashamed, and take your garments and lay them beneath the feet like little children, and tread on them, then you shall see the Son of the Living One, and you shall not fear. So, in essence, what he's saying, when you've forgiven the mind of man, when you've forgiven all the programming that's come from your culture that keeps you out of experiencing yourself as active present love, when you free yourself of that, then you will know who I am, because you will know who you are. You'll have the essence of your own being available to you, rather than being stuck in this false, constructed state of hostility or fear from the mind. So the work of forgiveness is the work of freeing the mind of all hostility, fear, grief, rage, pain, drama, and trauma. And as you free yourself of those energetic patterns, then whatever the circumstance, your mind will not generate images based on. Remember the conversion system? There are no pictures in the room, but when I turn on the TV set and I convert the signals that are here, there are all kinds of pictures here. When you free your device, your body-mind unit, of all these signals based in rage and grief and guilt and pain and blaming everybody else for it, then you get to step into your human life. You get to step into your experience of yourself as the active presence of being, naked, free of all the lies you've been told about yourself, free of all the cultural inhibitions, and returning to the truth of functioning as the conscious active presence of love that you are. And we're here to join you in that. We're learning the same thing as we're teaching. I love how Richard Bach says it. We teach best that which we most need to learn. And we're still on the path of learning. Appreciate you joining with us in it and helping to assist by refining our process with your questions. Holding space for you to have the best year yet of your eternal life. It's an awesome gift to give the world. Thanks for blessing us. Thanks for joining us.